Because
So with your writing, when you wrote the opera book, did you set time aside? I know we already talked about a little where you're talking about working on it on the weekends, but did you have a schedule where you tried to show up and write even if you didn't feel like writing? Or were you writing for a topic like at this time when I'm writing, I'm going to finish this chapter or this idea? Or were you doing a word count? How did you keep yourself going through all the writing?
great questions, man. I don't know where you're getting all these questions, but that's really good. Um, this book took me 10 years. It took 10 years because I couldn't do it every day. I mean, I got a full-time job. This is like part-time work after hours, right? It's like going to, if you ever went to university after while you're working, it's the same deal. I was doing university after hours, sort of on this book. A couple of key things about it. First of all, it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot because, well, she was a family member. She's my grandmother's sister, but there's a story behind her life as well. It's the story of someone rising from obscurity to the world's toppest, top of the world, the right, the best in the world in the field of opera. But the story is not about opera. The story is about the human, the human spirit and what can be done if you channel it well, working in your field of uniqueness and putting it in the service of others. And her uniqueness was her voice, but also her love of singing and music. And so, because she was in her unique area, she was able to, when you're working in an area that you are uniquely gifted in, it's not competition with others. There is no competition. You're in your, or very little competition in the world out there because, this is stuff you love with a passion. Now, from my point of view as the writer, it's a little bit of a story, but like when I started, I'll just tell this story. Look, I'm about 8 years old, grade 3. I come home from school. I'm having lunch. My mother comes in with the mail. She opens the letter and she says, "Oh, Teta Solomea pomerla." That's Ukrainian. We're Ukrainian in background. And she's saying, "Oh, Aunt Solomea has died." That was the first time I ever learned about Solomea Krushelnytska, who's the person I wrote about. From that, which was back in the 1950s, until today, like I just finished this book about a half a year ago. It's a long journey. In the beginning, I had no interest in her whatsoever, other than, well, she was my aunt, period. Oh, but over the years, as I grew older and stuff, there were people who really admired her in my family, and they told stories about her. How an example was one story was that she sang before Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. Now, big deal. What's the big deal there? Here's the big deal. Tsar Nicholas II was a Russian emperor, Tsar, and he forbid the use of Ukrainian, the language, or, songs, music, books, everything. It was all Russification. There is no Ukraine. And she went and sang before him in Ukrainian as a kind of defiant note, because she was a world star and he wanted to hear her sing because she was a world star. And only after he heard her singing, he asked her, "Say, what language was that in?" And she says, "Ukrainian." Oh, what background are you? Ukrainian. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. It was too late. But anyway, that's just a little example. So I heard stories like that. And initially I just, oh, okay, that's interesting. But over time, my mother who was also named Solomea, by the way, same name, started talking to my kids and really wanted them to know about the life story of this lady. It meant a lot to her, my mother. And here is the irony. This Solomea, the one in the book, was applauded for her voice worldwide, in the United States, in Canada, in South America, in Europe, in North Africa. When she performed, audiences adored her and her music and her voice. My mother, Solomea, was deaf and could not hear her sing.
Wow.
But they were close. The star, the opera star, and my mother. Now, they weren't close age-wise or world experience-wise. I mean, this woman was a big star and a big shot, and she traveled around in upper circles. And my mother was, you know, a modest. She was a tailor, so they weren't close that way. But they were close in terms of they were the same name, same family, and this irony between the two of them, that while other people applauded her voice, my mother couldn't hear her voice. And I think that drew them together. So anyway, my mother, Solomea, made sure that my kids knew about this woman's life. And I'm thinking, geez, it meant a lot to her to, you know, like, and that started it up. It started, my feelings started coming into play. So now that's a long way to come to the answer to your question, which is, how did you write the damn book? And the answer is, when other people went on parties and spent the night, you know, having a good time, I sat at home and wrote the damn book. You know, on weekends and when we had vacations, I didn't travel around the world. I sat at home, wrote the book. Not always. I'm not a Scrooge. Like, I'm a party man too, but, you know, I stole the time away from the schedule, you know, like, whenever I looked for time when people would be tired or they had something to do, so they would break away from me and I would have the time to devote to this thing. And all the time in my head for 10 years, I would think, oh, that's a good idea to put in the book. I should do that. No, no, that's wrong. No, what I wrote there is wrong. No, that's not right. It's got to be this way. You know, while I'm shaving, oh, that's a good thought. I got to put that in there, you know. While I'm eating, you know, I'm reading books about opera to figure out how to, you know. While I'm in the car, hit the record button. I'm listening to audiobooks about this topic. And now listen, I'm telling you this not to glorify myself. I'm not here to, you know, I'm not trying to, I need to tell you, I'm just an ordinary guy like you. Maybe you're not an ordinary guy, but I think you are. It sounds to me like you are. But I just took the time because I cared about it. And I'll bet any money that you, Sean, you in your life, in your heart, there are topics that are aching to get out and be expressed, or things that you have, you know, feelings that you have, burning need to get out. Now, they may be buried deep and you may not even know they're down there. Like, I didn't know anything about, I didn't know that I was going to write a book on this woman. I had no idea. I never went to opera. I'm not an opera fan. But it was in me. It was in me. And like, I don't know where it came from. My mother, I say, in part at least. And there were all these women, by the way. This is a woman's book. It's not about a man, it's about a woman. And there are all these women who were intensely interested in her life, and they would share stories about, oh, you know, did you hear about her in Paris and what happened in Paris? You know, what do you think of that romantic relationship she had with blah, blah, blah? You know, people knew all kinds of pieces of the story, but it wasn't anywhere cohesive in one place. There were books written in Ukrainian about her, but there was nothing in English. The English world had forgotten about her completely. Just a word about that. She spoke 8 languages. She knew 60 operas by heart. She could, like when she taught opera, and she was teaching someone how to sing something, she'd sing an opera from an aria from some opera, any opera, name it. She'd just pull out the aria and sing it for the person that she was teaching to show them how to sing it. She knew all that stuff by heart. And I mean, if there's a lot to her story, but because so many people had such an interest in her, when World War II broke out, just before World War II broke out, she was in Italy. She had been married to an Italian mayor of the city of Viareggio for 20 years, and he died just before World War II. And she decided, okay, I'm going to take a trip back to Ukraine, to Western Ukraine, which was then under Poland, and visit my family in August 1939. And on September 1st, 1939, when she was over there, the war broke out. And the Iron Curtain fell, and she never got out.